Porsche says you can't do this job at home. All the enthusiasts say you can't do this job at home, and pretty much everyone says you gotta pull the motor to do it. Well, I'm gonna show them why they're wrong. Or at least I'm gonna try. I already removed the transmission in the last episode, thankfully, because that was not fun.
Hey! Oh, it's off! Clutch material. Yeah.
After the transmission was out of the way, I got the pressure plate off and saw what was left of the clutch, followed by the flywheel.
Oh, it's a heavy girl.
While the clutch and pressure plate were absolutely destroyed, it seems like the flywheel may actually be savable.
This confirmed my suspicions, for sure.
Finally, I got the transmission all cleaned up with degreaser and a pressure washer, and it's looking pretty nice. Seeing as how this car had a total and complete clutch failure, I need to get the transmission out. I'm going to do it without pulling the engine. And hopefully by the end of this video, this thing will be running and driving once again. A big reason why this isn't a DIY job or a job you want to do laying on your back in your own garage at home is the clutch pivot pin. This thing is a nightmare. It's worse than anything I've ever seen. It's really a terrible design, and you actually have to tape it to the pressure plate. Yes, this is Porsche's own instructions, as absurd as that sounds. Thankful for all of your suggestions on clutch setups. It's finally time to get the transmission back in the car. I went over everything you guys said, and well, here's what I went with. There are a lot of clutch options when it comes to the 997 Turbo. Most people go with the Sachs Stage 2 or Stage 2.5 while keeping the OEM dual mass flywheel. Now another option is to go an aftermarket dual disc or even triple disc. I almost actually got a refurbished Tilton triple disc clutch, but that came with a lightweight flywheel and I was worried about chatter and drivability, so I actually opted out of that even though I got a good deal on it and I know it would hold all the power this car would ever make. So I'm sticking with the Sachs 2.5. I got it from the guys at Protomotive. They were extremely helpful, along with a whole bunch of other people that commented and helped me out. So I'm keeping the dual mass flywheel, and we're going to install a new pressure plate clutch and the associated bits in this video. The only thing I didn't get in time were the new axle seals. I did order them, but they didn't show up, so I'll have to do them later. As far as the rear main seal, I'm actually leaving that alone. It's not leaking. Everyone suggested I replace it, but then I got a few comments saying you need a special tool, and if you mess it up, it's going to be a nightmare in the long run. Plus, it's not leaking now, so hopefully it won't leak for a long time. Now, I didn't realize that the pressure plate bearing needs to be assembled with all of these pieces, so I'm not sure how this goes together. I'm going to have to look this up. There's 4 different rings here, types of snap rings. That seems overly complicated, but I've got the old one here to look at. And I've got the internet. I think I saw a video where Adam LZ did this and he stood on it.
The proper way obviously is putting it onto a press and getting this all centered, but it's always the other way is to stand on this.
This is really dumb.
You can see here, when I push pressure on this, you see how it's kind of going up and down. So this little circlip rests on the inside there. So another way is just to stand on it and then get the circlip to center. Try to keep the center.
And we're in, baby.
Why this doesn't come pre-installed is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna balance on this thing. Yeah, this was a new experience for me for sure. I've never installed anything like this. There we go. I think I got it all around. With the pressure plate taken care of, I could turn my attention to the OEM dual mass flywheel. Now what is interesting, both the new and the old pressure plate have the exact same part numbers, but the clutches are completely different. You can see the one I pulled out has a spring, which is kind of odd. Normally you don't have a springed clutch with a dual mass flywheel. So I'm wondering what clutch that is and why they went with that particular setup. Not only were the guys at Protomotive really helpful in guiding me in which clutch to get, they also could have profited from selling me a new dual mass flywheel. I'm sticking with the dual mass flywheel. I don't want to ruin the drivability of this car or the driving characteristics, but they could have made money off of me by telling me I need a new one. They said, you don't need a new one. Just scuff up your old one, clean it up. It'll be good to go. So that's what we're going to do right now before I put it back in the car, torque it down. unbelievable how heavy this thing is. Luckily, the studs kind of hold it there. And this calls for 17 foot-pounds, followed by 120 degrees. Once they were all torqued, I marked them for 120 degrees using a Sharpie. Basically, I marked the bolt head and then marked on the flywheel what 120 degrees was. That way, no matter where the wrench was positioned, I knew exactly how far to take the bolt. I almost forgot, I got this nifty stud extractor, so I put some heat at the way bottom of the base of the stud. We're going to use this to get the stud out because I have a new replacement on the way, because I couldn't get this out without this. And it turns out I don't even think I needed to remove it in the first place, according to someone else. And the stud's moving, so that's good. Came out perfectly, guys. That went well. This little extractor worked really, really well. I'll link it below. It was like 20 bucks on Amazon. Flywheel's in. That sucked, being cramped under a car and torquing those bolts to that high of a torque. You guys should be happy. I used a torque wrench and then I torqued to yield the correct degree, used Loctite, new bolts. All good there. You guys should be proud of me. Whew. I'm gonna get this new, whatever you call it, dingbat on the transmission. I'll probably call it a night and pick this back up tomorrow. I don't really know what the point of replacing this is, but yeah, sure, I'll do it. Came with the kit, why not? That seal in there is not leaking, so that's all good. Cool. Suffered through the flywheel together. Now it's time to suffer through the actual clutch and pressure plate together. So I'm gonna crawl back under the car, get all that stuff torqued down, and then we'll worry about getting the tranny in there and dealing with this, the demon pin. I do need to look up the torque specs for the pressure plate. Ugh. I apologize in advance, guys. My allergies are absolutely killing me today. All right, 11 foot-pounds plus 45 degrees. Easy enough. Some thread locker on these. All right, pressure plate is in. Throwout bearing feels really nice. Clutch is centered. I guess it's time to put the transmission in. I'm a little bit of tape away from getting the transmission in there. I got to tape the pivot fork on there per Porsche's procedure. What a genius idea. And then I can try to figure out how to hoist the transmission up there by myself. Yes, alone. Before taping up the clutch fork, I decided to get everything coated with some high temp lubricant because why not? These things are going to pivot and move. They need some lube. Then after that, I could crawl back under the car and tape the pivot fork to the pressure plate. I still can't get over just how dumb that is. Dumbest thing I've ever seen clutch-wise in any car. Okay, we got a little bit of play there, which is fine, I think. Looks good. Okay, let's throw the tranny in here. Throw the tranny in as if it's gonna be that easy. When I tell you guys it was a fight getting this transmission in there, I mean it was a 9-round brawl. This thing would not get in there. It's extremely heavy because it's a transmission and a differential, and I just couldn't get everything lined up. I was under the car for hours trying to get it in there.
But the tape's still there. Oh, looks like the, okay, the input shaft looks like it's in the right spot.
This is the worst transmission job. No, scratch that. This is the worst job I think I've ever done on any vehicle ever. Every part of this has fought me from start to finish. So you guys are going to see like 90% of the install because it was just like I just didn't have the mental capacity on the right state of mind to film it all. I had a time lapse going, but that's it. And all the cursing and swearing. Fuck you, fucking fucking coolant, son of a. Yeah, would have made all the video pretty much useless anyway. But the transmission is in there. The clutch fork pivot pin is in there. Now it's just all the finishing touches.
Getting the transmission seated was bad enough, but to make things even worse was the clutch pivot pin, the devil pin. This thing was awful. You can see here, I dropped numerous things down in the bell housing. I broke off part of a screwdriver. Luckily, I could fish it out with a magnet. And then when installing the little cover plate that holds the clutch pivot pin in, I dropped that, so I had to fish that out. Luckily, I could get that out as well because I just did not want to pull this transmission out again. But eventually, I got both bolts holding the clutch pivot pin in there. Everything was together and working, or at least seemingly, so I can move on to the final pieces of this transmission install.
You know, it occurred to me that I'm putting everything 100% back together and I haven't even tested the clutch yet. So hopefully this is correct. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pull this all back apart.
I'll stand by what I said. That was the hardest, most frustrating automotive job I've ever done. I would swap the entire interior, including the wiring harness, before doing that job again. That was awful. If I had a two-post lift and could stand under the car, that would make a big difference. But this was terrible. In fact, if I ever have to do this again, I'm probably just gonna pay a shop to do it. That's how bad it is. So I don't recommend doing that at home unless you have a full two-post lift. But we'll pick this up tomorrow. I have a fresh head, some food in me, some water. I'm not covered in filth. Let's just hope that everything works. Now, before getting this going again, I definitely need to get some coolant back in it because I lost a lot. And by coolant, I mean distilled water, because that's what we're still rocking at this point till this car's squared away. Afterwards, I'll add some actual Porsche coolant to it. Now, before I test this and make sure that the clutch system works, now would be a great time for a like, comment, or subscription. I appreciate all of them. Apologies in advance, I broke my DJI camera yet again. So right now I've got it being JB welded back together with some tape and a wrench. So for the end of this video, it's gonna be GoPro. Sorry. But it is the next day, coolant is topped off, gotta connect the battery, and well, see if the clutch works. Makes any weird noises, anything wrong, etc. Pedal feels fantastic. Probably needs just a tiny bit of bleeding, but man, that pedal feels great. So that's good. The slave cylinder and everything appear to be working perfectly. That's an excellent start. No weird noises. perfect. Here we are in first gear. Oh, everything's great. I feel much better. Now, I'm not done with this video yet. There's some things I need to do to the car to prepare it. To get all the rest of the parts painted, I gotta take some stuff off. Won't take very long. Stick around for a few minutes. And yes, I was planning on going for a drive to test it fully, but it's raining, and as you guys know, I have no rear windows. So I'm not about to drive this thing out in the weather and ruin something, but all signs point to the clutch is working perfectly. That's great. A couple things on the car still need to be painted, including the front bumper, the wing, one of the side vents, tow hook cover, miscellaneous things. But to include are these hinges. So I need to take these hinges off. I want to get them painted so they match. Right now they look kind of goofy. They're in the old Atlas gray. But to do that, I have to remove this. And to remove this, I have to remove a piece on the inside. Also, there's a gasket that goes under here that I wasn't aware of that one of you guys told me about, which is, I'm glad you told me about that. So I ordered that gasket as well. The plan is to drive this to Mustafa's shop, and then when I'm there, I'll pull out the headlights and the taillights because that takes 5 minutes, along with the front bumper. So hopefully next time you see this car, the paint is completely done, and I'll work on final install. There's not much left to do to the car after that, other than modifications, of course.